It's the lived experiences. Don't think that you have to go back to what you were doing, because that safe space could also be the thing that crushes your dreams.
Welcome to Dream Big with Big Dreamers, conversations for career growth, inspiration, and insight. It's time to dream big. Welcome to Dream Big with Big Dreamers, where we explore what it takes to imagine, pursue, and achieve extraordinary things. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce Mary Kay Owen, a marketing leader, event orchestrator, community advocate, and truly a master of reinvention. Mary Kay's career journey is anything but linear. She's led award-winning marketing campaigns, steered community partnerships, she's helped revitalize the healthcare workforce during the pandemic, and even inspired students as a substitute teacher. Her story is about saying yes to new chapters, learning through change, and bringing humor and heart to every challenge. Mary Kay, thank you so much for being with me today. When was the first time you remember dreaming big, and how did it shape who you are today?
Good morning, Donna. I'm very appreciative of being here this morning and telling my story and just saying that hope springs eternal. I would have to say dreams can be very fluid, and I do believe that mine is, because I'm not there yet. I love the word yet. I've had a dream that brings together all my experiences personally and professionally, writing my novel. I've been working on that. I'm determined to be published. So that is my dream. It's fluid, but it puts together all the tied up bows from all those experiences personally and professionally. So I'm going to get there. And in the meantime, I'm frequently contributing to the Philadelphia Inquirer with different types of editorials related to social changes, social issues. I just enjoy humor and adding that as a component to any situation I'm in, even those where it really shouldn't be, but that's the way it goes. Yeah.
Well, dream big, and to say my next dream is going to be to write a novel, that's huge. And I cannot wait to see what happens and how it blooms. Which leads me to my first question, which is many people feel pressure to follow a straight path, but you've embraced change and new beginnings throughout your career.
Right.
What gave you the courage to start fresh, and what has reinvention taught you about yourself?
I think at this stage, when I still have plenty in the tank, I think that my mantra in the past couple of years has always been, let them say no, but have to ask. And if they say no, at least you did. And if they take you back and like, yeah, I could do that, or I'll help you with that, or yes, I'll contribute that and nonprofit, then you're good. But in the meantime, always ask. Not the worst thing that can happen. Because that's the redirection, right? An opportunity for a new job, or it's somebody saying, I don't like your book right now, or any number of things. I think there has to be the strength and the backbone to take no and know that it's a redirection and not an end.
Yeah. One of my favorite sentences is, please pardon my persistence.
Yeah. Right. Or don't pardon it and understand I'm going to be relentless until you understand that there's value in what I'm telling you, right?
Wow. But at what point did you realize that you have this fire and that you are going to move forward? Was this something that you were born with, or is this something that through your experiences, you've come to that point where you're like, I'm doing it no matter what?
Well, I think I'm the oldest of 6. I had 5 younger brothers. So I think that there's a certain independence that comes with that, because there's always a baby. So you're just kind of doing your own thing when you're not actually changing diapers during those formative years, right? It was a big part of the initial figure it out. It was about how I chose where to go to school. I didn't want to be anywhere near home. How I decided where I was going right after school. I ended up in Houston. And then it's like, well, when it's too hot and I'm missing my friends and there's no 4 seasons, I take my poodle and we drive cross country back to New York. It's all saying, like, what's the worst that can happen? And understanding that at times you're your own net, or you can count on your resilience. Resilience is a muscle. And I have one of my dearest friends says my picture is next to that word in the dictionary in terms of stuff that happens. And you just bounce back because you have to, right?
Yeah. You said, what's the worst that can happen? And sometimes we want that worst that can happen because that sets the bar to a point where it's like, it doesn't matter. I've experienced something terrible and it wasn't that bad. So I can put myself out there again in a different way because I know the worst that can happen, it's still not that bad.
Right. And it's also that depending upon your worldview, no matter what happens to you, it's not as bad as stuff that's already happened to somebody else. Right.
Yeah.
And they bounce back. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that there's resilience defined across the world, people's collectively and people singularly in episodes. So I just think there's no excuse for feeling sorry for yourself. I also think it has to start inside. And my faith is a big part of everything too. When you put the whole ball of wax together, there's the ability to put a smile on your face and get up and go. Although there are times I have to be told to smile.
You've succeeded across industries from retail marketing to healthcare partnerships and teaching. How have you leveraged your experiences to add value, even when stepping into something new?
I think it's based on the experiences I had along the way. You learn something if you're open to it in every opportunity, the people you're meeting, whether it's your coworkers or people in your private life. I retain it all. I retain the good, the bad, and the ugly. You start to realize I can do this. And,
Yeah.
I couldn't go home after school for work because my family lived in a small town. There wouldn't have been any opportunity. So I ended up working as a paralegal for a very elite law firm. I worked on a big anti-monopoly gas case. It took me out of town to Oklahoma and Texas and New Mexico, and I'm on private jets and I'm eating foods I never had before. Whenever I came home, I didn't know anybody because I didn't have the opportunity to work on my networks. After 2 years of running around and working in this law firm, I'm like, I don't want to do this. My poodle puppy and we went across that bridge in Lake Charles. The bridges, they're so high, the biggest ships in the world can pass under them. On the way back, I was driving a Datsun with one of those U-Haul containers with all my clothes on the top. But anyway, we made it. When I got home, I had friends from high school who had all been to Marymount and Tarrytown for mercantile degrees. Next thing I know, I'm a fit model in New York City at some of the big fashion houses. Then I worked at Escada, high-end German clothes. I still have some of those leather pieces. I can't get in them, but I have them. Liz Claiborne, with the height of women going back to work, shoulder pads.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I was there when she and her husband were presenting the seasons. It was a very remarkable time. But my friends were starting to get married, and I hadn't met the one yet. We were all commuting because we weren't making the money to live in New York, and we didn't want to live 5 people in an apartment. A friend of mine from college, I went to visit her, and she's in Philadelphia. And it's like, you can afford to live here and work and live in the city. Picked up the dog, and we moved again. Some of my brothers moved me, and we got stuck on the Jersey Turnpike. It was a mess, but we made it. And then I ended up at the Franklin Institute during the time period that the Future Center was opening, which was, I wouldn't use the machine that would forecast what you'd look like when you were old. But the IMAX theater, it was a really remarkable time to be in that institution. And the city itself was very vibrant. And I went from there to the gallery, which was owned by the Rouse Company. And that's where, when you had the mentor question, that's where I thought Michelle was my mentor, meaning that was a cross section of my career. We are going to kind of get organized in such a way that my head from that point on, in terms of taking on an event, taking on any type of tasks, things. And so doing major events and networking across the city to make things happen. For example, the city's getting ready for Welcome America, right? You heard about that? The
I remember
Welcome
those.
Now?
Yeah.
I worked with Michelle, the people at Wanamaker's and the people at the city on the inaugural Welcome America.
Oh, wow.
You didn't know where that was going to go, how that was going to work. But every year I think of it fondly. I remember the very first one and the very first Market East Festival, which is where the Christmas tree gets lit every year. But now that's grown into the skating rink.
Yeah.
It was a time when the convention center was opening. And there was a lot of energy around the city in terms of we've had enough of people thinking badly of us. And how can we really be sure that we're a destination? Point then I think has lasted in terms of the intrigue of the city, the restaurants, the culture. I went with one of my brothers to the American Revolution Museum several weeks ago. You can see George Washington's tent. I just think that Remarkable is a word that I don't use easily, but I can look back at seminal moments in my career when I say that was a remarkable experience because it was the first time it was done. Or
Yeah.
it's really something to be able to go there, meaning the museum or any of the in Philadelphia. At the time when you worked at the Rouse Company, if you were there 3 years, you were either promoted or you weren't around in the marketing director capacity to Exton Square Mall. This reminds me of Cooperstown, upstate New York, because depending upon which way you went to work, you saw cows, right? But that's not really true anymore. All of my initial ways to figure out where I am, I knew it was a new thing in terms of not only the demographics, not only the store mix, but what does it need? And part of being a Rouse person was that you were involved in the community. So that was where I got to meet and still know a lot of really wonderful, dedicated people. I was on different boards. It really helped develop my confidence because I worked for somebody who demanded excellence. So that was my mentality and has been since. We're dotting I's, we're crossing T's, we're going to get it done, but you can't tell me how we're going to get there because we haven't really looked at it yet. So it's like a punch list mentality. What do we have to do? Back it out. When does that have to be done? Who's responsible? What are the potential issues that could come up? To have the A, B, and C's so that when you say you're done, it's really complete. There isn't anything that can be challenged about it. We prepared for rain. One of the years during construction, remember the mall doubled in size and all of that? I was there for one of the years under construction. I had Santa drive a tractor as part of the Santa arrival. And then we had to switch Santas at the back of a store so that the real Santa could go to his chair. And
and probably didn't smell like gasoline.
no, but I mean, all these things where you don't realize when you're in one. Although when I worked at the gallery, we used to bring trains in for the Santa arrivals from all different places. And I was on the 69th Street train one morning for the event, and the Energizer Bunny passed out. We had to take the head off the bunny so that he wouldn't, pass. And of course, so you're like, how many children did we disturb for life because the Energizer Bunny, of all of the characters that could pass out, it was the Energizer Bunny. And that's where I think the humor and the whatever's going to happen is going to happen mentality is, but you fix it and make it work. And you don't take it too seriously. There are times when you have to take things very seriously, depending upon personal conflicts. But for the most part, you move on, right? Well, I was Exton for a long time. There was a change with Preet, a lot of different opportunities. Fast forward to the internet and all the challenges to retail, and they were having layoffs. It came my time. It was a nice package, which meant I didn't have to panic. A woman I worked with at council on their marketing committee after one of the boards I was on, and she said she had a healthcare partnership that needed to kind of come back to life. And she had said to me, you don't have a problem with difficult conversations. I thought what she was trying to say was, if you have to make a change, then you're saying it's not working. And not everybody wants to hear that. I had never done anything with healthcare. It was just a matter of, there are some very stellar people there. That organization, the Economic Development Council, has made incredible contributions to this county and this region. So I knew a lot of them because I used to run in there all the time when they were in a different location. When I was at the mall, demographic information or find out what was going on that would impact sales and stores at the mall. So I was familiar with everybody. And it was just a matter of saying, again, that whole punch list mentality, that whole we're going for excellent here. And so it became a matter of researching if you have a partnership and there are existing members in these different categories in healthcare, what does that look like? So it was a matter of Googling and going to resources to say, these are the established healthcare sectors and an Excel sheet. And then figuring out based on who was in the area, who needs to be in there. If we have long-term care, where's urgent care? Where are the hospitals, et cetera? So it was a matter of building, but it became very serious networking because I could get on the phone and say, I'm so-and-so from the Economic Development Council, which means they already know you're legitimate. and say, we're in the process of rebuilding this healthcare partnership, and could I come and see you? Could we meet and talk about it? And it got to the point where I was starting to fill in people to go in these sectors, and I was playing with Excel, putting colors in. I was surprising myself. Meaning, needed here, don't need it there. It took time, but you start to realize this is coming together. So if I started in August, in October, we had a meeting and it was called our innovators. And it was, what is the biggest challenge? What keeps you up at night? And you're saying this to the CEOs of the hospitals in the area, to the leaders of nonprofits, senior representatives of different healthcare sectors. And at the time, it was all about the opioid crisis and also behavioral health, which incorporates mental health. You have somebody who ran one of the local hospitals saying, I've had a 5-year-old in my ER for 3 days, nowhere to send this child who's impacted. The sad part is, Donna, all of that's still taking place today.
Yeah.
So that kind of gave us direction and to tell a story. That's how, I'd never written a grant in my life, but that's how that organization, with its workforce partnerships, it was telling the story, the nuts and bolts of doing the grant. There was a team that helped with that, filling in the quantitative information, the organizational proprietary stuff, but the story in terms of where we are, where we need to go, and how we're going to get there. We got our $50,000, which meant that we could go forward. And then the same thing happened after another year. You're setting up action teams, working on transportation, because there's a rural component to Chester County, and a lot of low-paid workers don't live close to where they work, and they're having to walk that so-called last mile in all sorts of weather. It was some very important initiatives that we worked on. I say we because it was a wonderful group of people. And then you fast forward, and I'm working with a healthcare partnership, and you've got COVID, and you have a historical pandemic. And I became aware that some of the partnerships around the country in medicine and related to healthcare just suspended. The woman I was working with was from one of the hospitals. We were like, that's not what we do. They need us more than ever.
Yeah.
So we pivoted to webinars, did our meetings remotely, and we would do bi-monthly. And attendance went through the roof because what happened was it became a safe space. It wasn't the official word that everybody was hearing, and it wasn't the conflicting protocols. Where it was somebody from one system saying, well, this is how we're doing it, and somebody saying, oh, that's interesting. We'd have the woman who ran the health department and still does getting on there saying, what are the numbers? How are we doing in the county? How can we help you? It was a safe space, and that was important at that time. And it was also people sharing resources. There might be nurses saying that so-and-so is offering remote counseling. These were people who were afraid to go home. They didn't know what they were bringing home on their clothing. It's like a bad dream, but it wasn't that long ago. That workforce, unlike all the others, was hit in a certain way. And then, of course, you always wanted to hear what was going on in long-term care. That was a nightmare all its own, right? So I'd be sitting where I'm sitting now with people around the region in healthcare talking about something that is so scary. They don't know what's going to happen. It was a stunning, revolutionary time period to be in because it had never happened before. We got through that. I used to do emails on Tuesday at 11, and it was inspiration and dedication, and we appreciate you. And then it was always one of those pictures from one of those inspirational things. I did that for about a year. For the most part, we're past this. In between, we did have remote meetings. Tony, who was the medical director at Temple at the time, talk about how it was working in an underserved community. We had a woman who was a nurse locally, and she was also a writer, and she had also lost a child in childbirth, and she was on talking about the risk of childbirth for Black mothers. If you're going to do it right. If you're going to do it, make sure it's something that somebody's interested in. And that was the key to the agendas for our remote meetings, because the agendas would go out, and it's like, this means that intentionally, this health system, Jeannie from the health department. So, yes.
Looking back, is there a big dream you chased that changed you, or a moment when persistence paid off in a surprising way?
I'm going to feel that when my book gets published.
Fabulous. So what's one big dream you're chasing next? So I'm going to assume that's your book. And what really excites you about it?
What excites me about it is it's personal without being a memoir, meaning I couldn't have written what I've written or continue to work on if I didn't live it. And I write it as somebody who's my age, meaning that if you're my age or younger than me or older than me, you're going to understand those time periods I'm talking about. So you are either going to laugh very hard or cry very hard, but you're going to have a good time. The journey, it's all the journey. And because everybody's lives are filled with so many ups and downs. I've been through serious challenges just like everybody else, but you have to get up again and you have to move past it. And so I do think that I've been very blessed with the resilience and the friendships and the family and the dogs that get me out every day.
Yeah. For anyone who's listening and feels stuck or they're struggling to dream big right now, what advice would you share from your journey?
I think it's the lived experiences. Don't think that you have to go back to what you were doing, because that safe space could also be the thing that crushes your dreams. I mean, I've had people tell me that I needed to continue in retail because I was in my 50s and they're saying, you don't want to jeopardize this, that, or the other thing. And like, I was done with the stores, done with Santa arrivals, done with Easter. Enough already. I wasn't going to just find another mall or another store. I wasn't going to do it for that safe reason. It's a vital safe reason. How do you pay your bills? But I just couldn't do it. And so, I think that it's pivoting. It's a big remote's open now. There are all sorts of ways to say, this is what I want to do. You can Google, what is it you want to do? You can use AI to say, this is what I want to do. There are all these tools. And you can talk to people. But I think it box yourself in again.
What lessons have you learned from all of the pivoting you've done throughout your career?
I think what works as opposed to what's not fulfilling is huge, because as soon as you realize this isn't working, you need to make the change instead of getting stuck and saying 10 years from now, oops.
I think knowing what you don't like is probably half the battle too.
That's as long as you acknowledge it soon enough, right?
Absolutely.
My nonlinear career path translates into understanding and capacities beyond job descriptions and a resilience beyond measure.
I love that. You are absolutely resilient, Mary Kay.
Well, my toolbox, I use different things at different times to get me up past this one. And I'm also looking forward to my next opportunity. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I wish you the very best of luck. I know you're going to land somewhere great and make a huge difference.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. I hope you and your crew have a wonderful summer. And onward.
Mary Kay's story reminds us that every chapter, even the unexpected ones, can open new doors and deeper growth. If you're listening today and doubting your own dreams, remember, it's never late to begin again. So take that first step, ask for help, and trust that your journey is uniquely yours. Thank you so much for tuning in to Dream Big with Big Dreamers. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who needs a little inspiration. And until next time, keep dreaming big.